Well, it looks like we will be seeing the TNT Championship quite often now on TV as Cody, and I'm knocking crap over right when I start here, as Cody announces that he will be defending the TNT Championship every week as a open challenge. So looking forward to see how that goes. Also, we have the arrival of the Revival, or FTR as they're calling themselves now, which doesn't technically stand for anything in particular, but hey, you never know. And then also we have two title matches set up for next week, and Jericho calls out Mike Tyson over a decades old not decades, a decade old transgression. Hey, what's up, everybody? Eric LaRoche here from That's Wrestling. Thanks for tuning in, whether on podcast or on YouTube. It happens in both places, so if you're watching in one, you can get in the other if you would like, but definitely go over to the YouTube if you're listening to this as a podcast, because this show is done live, so you can participate with your chat and all that fun stuff, so you can throw in comments. Also, be sure to, if you have any mailbag questions while the show is going on or anything like this, since it is recorded about 24 hours later, it's good to get those questions in. We can address those. Also, be sure to head over to iTunes and give us a review. It really helps out. And let's see what else we have. Also, check out our Discord. There is a link right in the description of both the podcast and the YouTube. It is basically all of my projects. So I have a couple other projects that I work on, but there is a channel in there dedicated to wrestling. And then we have a channel for gaming and stuff like that. So there's a whole bunch of people. It's pretty active. And it's not a giant community, but it's nice to have a small community of active people who like to talk about wrestling. So that is always fun. And also, if you're interested in being a co-host for New Japan related stuff, shoot me an email, eric@thatswrestling.com. And also, if you would like to be a fill-in or last-minute type of call for AEW co-hosting duties, like tonight, I am without a co-host, so I'm flying solo. Be sure to send an email to the same place, eric@thatswrestling.com. Okay, so the biggest story of AEW this week wasn't even on AEW TV. It was on Being the Elite. If you happen to watch this, there was an appearance by Marty Scurll. So this is very interesting that Marty Scurll has appeared now on Being the Elite. What does that mean? Does that mean that he was just there for an inside joke? Or is Marty looking to do some work with AEW? I do not know exactly what his contract is like with Ring of Honor, but he is basically one of the head bookers in Ring of Honor, so I don't know how they're going to feel about having their head booker on AEW television. Also, he does some work with NWA as well, so it'd be very strange to see Marty Scurll wrapped up in all these promotions at the same time. I believe at least the ROH contract does allow him to do NWA and New Japan, because ROH and New Japan have a relationship. But if the head booker decides to start to work with AEW as well, is that going to be a problem for somebody? Don't know. New Japan obviously is okay using AEW talent, such as Moxley and Jericho. Who else went over there? I'm not sure who else went over there, but I'm hoping now that the Revival, now FTR, now that they are with AEW, I wonder if their contract allows them to do New Japan as well, because I'd love to see them in New Japan. That would be pretty awesome. But of course, New Japan, they are basically playing it by ear at this point on when they may start shows again. Last I heard, but it is extremely tentative, is possibly the end of July, but they are not going to be pushing it. One of the great things about New Japan and Bushiroad, which is the parent company of New Japan and Stardom, and I think they probably have a few other different kind of fight entities and whatnot, is they have not laid anybody off during this pandemic, and a lot of the higher-ups have even taken pay cuts, some up to 95% of a pay cut, to make sure they didn't have to fire anybody. So they are losing money like crazy because live shows is basically the entire portfolio of Bushiroad. So they're losing a ton of money, but they are doing right by everybody who's employed by them. By the top guys are taking massive pay cuts. So firing people or letting people go or furloughing people is a last resort and not a first resort like one other company out there. But again, AEW hasn't laid anybody off. I don't believe ROH has either, so everybody who is contracted is still there. I'm not sure about Impact. I don't hear much about Impact in general, but you know, it is what it is. So let's move on to the actual show. AEW Dynamite for May 27th, 2020, and if you hear crap rumbling around, it is my puppy at my feet, and I can't do much about it. All right, so the show starts off with a Double or Nothing recap, nothing big, but then we have Inner Circle with Jericho saying it's been a rough week. Egos are bruised, but we're having a prep rally tonight so we can get fired up and and then we need to figure out how to sell all these Stadium Stampede champion shirts, which is hilarious because you know how like during the World Series or Super Bowl or something, the t-shirt company prints out the both teams as the champions, so it's ready to go the second the game is over, but they have all these that are now incorrectly printed. This is what the Inner Circle did. And he says, luckily it's only these few boxes. And Santana's like, yeah, well, it's more than a few boxes. You remember Carlos and he talking about wherever he lived. We got a deal. And he opens up the back of this box truck and it's stacked full of boxes of the Inner Circle Stadium Stampede Championship. And holy crap, I'm going to take that away from you. All right. The joys of having a 16-week-old puppy. So we have this week on AEW, we have the Inner Circle Prep Rally. Cody will be doing a promo. We have a battle royale for the TNT Championship. Number one contenders who will be facing Cody next week. SCU versus Kip Sabian to face the tag champs next week. What about the number one contenders that they crowned on the pre-show of Double or Nothing Best Friends? Last I heard, that match is actually going to be happening at Fyter Fest, so we will see when that actually pops up, because they have not announced the actual time when it's actually going to happen. Then we have Brian Cage is making his Dynamite debut after his huge debut at Double or Nothing. Hikaru Shida is in action, and then we start off the night with the Young Bucks and Matt Hardy versus Joey Janela with Private Party. And then it cuts to a video. We have the Young Bucks with Matt Hardy backstage. And Hardy says that he's proud to have gone to war, to the Great War, and be victorious with the Elite. Hangman is there with Kenny Omega as well. He says he's going to go back to the hotel and get a drink. Omega says he's got a couple of jugs in the fridge. So he leaves with Hangman as well. So this kind of sets up why Hangman and Omega are not there later in the night. And then Hardy says, tonight, myself and the Bucks of Youth will team for the first time ever. The Bucks ask Matt Hardy if they could get a different version of Matt Hardy other than Damascus. So the camera... He walks off screen, the camera pans just enough so the Bucks are out of frame, and then Matt comes back immediately and he's in Team Extreme gear, and they're like, we were thinking a few years earlier than this, and it pans just barely off the Bucks. Matt walks off screen, then immediately comes back on screen in very old Hardy Boys ring gear from way back with like mid 90s Hardy Boys. And it is very vintage. So we have Young Bucks and Matt Hardy versus Private Party and Joey Janela. Matt Jackson's ribs are all taped up because he did suffer a legit bruised rib last week, but he did go through the Stadium Stampede match. So I'm curious how much that is bothering him. If it was just a bruise and it's really not a big deal at this point, but he was taped up. I'm guessing if it was hurting really bad, he would not be working. The match starts off super fast-paced from both sides. I couldn't even pin down exactly what happened during this, but it was really back and forth. Joey Janela did something that I really liked. He did a dive at one point and hit Nick on the outside, and then right away, instead of playing to the crowd or anything like that, he picked up Nick Jackson and gave him a Death Valley driver on the mats immediately. So he hit the dive, picked up Nick, and gave him a Death Valley driver on the floor. Really nice on the immediate follow-up. Glad to see Nick avoided the silly string that takes 10 years for them to set up. I don't know why any opponent ever gets hit with it. On the outside, Blade gets super kicked by Nick. Blade is in the crowd. Joey Janela moves out of the way. Butcher and Blade then get involved on the outside, and the Bucks fight with them in the crowd a little bit. Tony talks about how having wrestlers at ringside helps the atmosphere, but you never know what could happen. And JR said, yeah, they could be stuck in plexiglass, which is a jab at WWE if people did not know what they have set up over there on Raw. Matt Hardy gets a hot tag, takes out all of the other team and stacks them up. All three of them, hits a moonsault on all three. He pins all three at the same time, and the ref goes to count. I did not go back to see if he was on the right side because it was alternating head, feet, or head, feet, head. And I think he was not counting the shoulders of the person who was actually legal, but it didn't matter. All of them kicked out anyways. Private Party do a double dive where Mark Quinn says that he jammed his knee and he was out of the match at this point. It was not a legit injury. It was part of the show. Of course, Bucks hit more bang for your buck and pick up the win. So nice to see Young Bucks picking up a win with kind of their secondary finisher, even at this a tertiary finisher at this point, because they have the Meltzer driver and the Indie Taker and all that fun stuff. So what happens next, Matt Hardy goes to the outside to check on Mark Quinn, and he and the ref help Mark Quinn to the back. So I wouldn't think Hardy would be involved and then make a huge deal out of it if it was a legit injury. So this sets up Butcher and Blade jump the barricade and start beating on the Young Bucks, and we suddenly hear a revving engine. And we cut to a lowrider vintage truck. I would really like to have that. And it is Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood, the previously known as the Revival FTR. They get into the ring and they go to the Young Bucks and they're staring them down. And then they turn around and beat up Butcher and Blade. They give Blade a pile driver, a spike pile driver, and then give the Butcher the Shatter Machine, which they did not call it anything particular on commentary. They're obviously going to have to come up with a new name for that. And then they stare down the Bucks again. The Bucks kind of hesitantly offer a handshake, but FTR decides to just turn and leave. And that is it. The former Revival, now FTR, is in AEW. It was not like this was it was a surprise to see it happening right now. Obviously, it was not a surprise to anyone that FTR was coming to AEW. Obviously, pre-pandemic era, they might have made a stop in NWA or something like that, or New Japan or something, or landed in New Japan first just to throw everybody off. But this is how it goes. But FTR are in AEW now, so man, tag division in AEW is so stacked right now, and that is awesome because I love the style of tag team wrestling that FTR does, which is going to be a huge contrast to the Young Bucks. And then imagine friggin' FTR versus Pentagon and Phoenix. Holy crap. That would probably be a barn burner right there. Looking forward to it. I'm not sure if this was on TNT or not, but Moxley comes out. He heads to commentary, and it's Brian Cage versus Lee Johnson. Lee Johnson has been a kind of fixture as an a jobber. Cage attacks Johnson the second he enters the ring. Cage, that is. Cage gets in, he attacks immediately, hits a bunch of power moves, hits the drill claw, gets the win. Taz grabs the mic and addresses Moxley, says he respects Moxley for his dedication, his grind, and that he's going to be facing Brian Cage at Fyter Fest, and that he'll be dealing with something different. That's a machine, and he wants Mox to bring his fight, his grit, his heart, and because Big Boy is going to put his hand in your chest and pull your heart right out of your friggin' chest. That was the actual quote. Big Boy is going to put his hand in your chest and pull your heart right out of your friggin' chest. I'm not sure if this was live. If it wasn't, they probably should have redone this promo. It was a good promo from Taz, but he did have a few stutters in there. And this repeating kind of thing where he says he's going to put his hand in his chest and pull your heart out of your chest. It kind of, how the cadence was when he delivered it was just really weird. Then he uses his old catchphrase, beat him if you can, survive if he lets you. So a slight twist on the old one. What's up, Daxers? All right, so next up we have Britt Baker is rolled out by Rebel, and she has the rules of being a role model flip chart up on a easel. Tony is confused about what's going on. They throw to Tony a couple times, but it's actually he's doing this on purpose. It was pure comedy gold watching Tony here. Then he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for being a role model. Rules for being a role model." And he's holding like this huge, large pointer that Britt handed to him. And then someone from the crowd yells, "This sucks!" And he like looks out. He's like, and then Britt is like talking to him, and he like stands up kind of a little bit more straight, and then uses the pointer more precisely. And once again, this is rules of being a role model. And Britt takes the mic and takes the mic from him, and it is rule number 3. She yells at Rebel to flip it, and she says the rule is all about me. Don't hurt the role model. The brutal assault on last week wasn't an accident. It was a calculated conspiracy. It was a 3-on-1 attack. And it might have been in the works for months, maybe since AEW started. I am close personal friends with the top TNT executives. Without me, there would be no women's division. And then she tells Reba to flip the chart. Of course, Rebel doesn't respond for a second, not realizing she's addressing her. And then she realizes, oh wait, I'm being addressed. And then she says it again to flip it. Rebel flips it, and it's a picture of Chris Statlander. She says, "Chris Statlander, you being an alien is a crock of shit. Conspirator." And she hits it with the pointer. She says, "Flip it." And then it's Shida. Shida broke my nose. Fraudulent champion. Carries a weapon. Conspirator. And then flip it. And then it's Nyla Rose says, I have seen Nyla come off the top rope hundreds, maybe thousands of times with precision and grace. You mean to tell me she couldn't have guided herself away from my fragile leg? Conspirator. And then Rebel flips the last page without being told. Britt is mad, so she like flips it back immediately. And then she yells at Rebel, get the board. And Tony steps back into frame, and he's standing there. Rebel brings in this cork board with a bunch of pictures on it. She said, here is the evidence. And Tony is standing too close to the board looking at it. And Britt whacks Tony with the pointer and says, get the fuck out. But they did cut it. They did drop it. I'm pretty sure she actually said the words, but they did cut it. So it's like, get the fuck out. It was hilarious. And then she says, here we have the web of evils, and it all centers around the brains of the operation, Madam Aubrey Edwards. Coincidence, she just so happens to be around every time I'm injured. Concussion, Aubrey was there. Broken leg, Aubrey was there. Broken nose, Aubrey was somewhere, right? So Aubrey was not the ref at the broken nose. And you have all been put on notice. You tried to take me out. Well, joke's on you. I will be back at All Out. And then she gets wheeled out. And on the back of her chair, it says role model, ROLL. I busted out laughing when I saw that. It was hilarious. All right, next up. We have Alex Marvez. He wants to do an interview with the Inner Circle. He says, I'm here with the Inner Circle. Chris, you're about to do a prep rally tonight. Chris says, shut your ass, Marvez, you fathead. We have better things to do than stand here and talk to you, but you're right. Inner Circle is having a prep rally. It will be the greatest spectacle in AEW history. We have pomp and circumstances. We got cheerleaders. We got drumline. We got presence. We're going to go out there and get back on track, Marvez. And after we are robbed at, and then he cuts off, and Orange Cassidy just walks through the background. He just strolls through. And Jericho said, did he just do that? Okay. We'll see you later, Orange. And then they walk off. Next up, we have... This was perfectly fine. Not a big deal. Just sets up what happened later in the evening. Next up, we have Christi Jaynes versus Hikaru Shida. This is her first appearance on Dynamite, and they say she's from Brazil. She kind of has like this dance gimmick going, kind of salsa gimmick going on, and Jaynes uses her speed and actually gets quite a lot of offense in on Shida. And then there's one point I really hated. Christi Jaynes wants Shida to dance, and then she gives in and like starts to. Why? Because it makes her look like an idiot, and Jaynes just kicks the back of Shida's knee. Christi plays up to the crowd too much at one point, and then Shida turns around, hits a running knee in the corner, rising knee when she's draped off the apron. She puts on a chin lock for a little while, hits a vertical suplex, and then she ends up sitting on the top rope. Christi does this nice run-up enziguri where she kind of runs up the ropes and hits the kick. And then she does a sunset flip off the top rope for a 2 count. She misses a lion salt. Shida hits a massive forearm, hits a running knee to the back of the head for a 2 count, and then Shida hits a Falcon Arrow for the win. Why? Why did this match go the way it went? It made absolutely no sense. Shida just looked like a geek, taking it easy and doing the dance spot. That was the absolute worst. I don't know why Shida even went there. It totally made her look like an idiot. I think this is probably the worst first match they could have put together for Hikaru Shida after winning the title. I think she either should have totally beat the crap out of Christi Jaynes Jaynes, or they had somebody else in there with her to give her. It was so weird because she got so much offense. You would think that Christi Jaynes was the star in this match and not Hikaru Shida, who is the women's champion. No sense. Should not have happened. Next up, there was a picture-in-picture segment. I watched this on Fight, so for those of you who watched on TNT and it was picture-in-picture, and if you thought you actually missed something with Omega and Hangman Page, you did not. There was no sound even on the Fight feed either, which there usually is. There's actually through the commercial breaks, there's actually the commentary does continue on the Fight feed. But for this, they just cut the sound right when they went to what I assume is commercial, while Hikaru Shida was still celebrating in the ring. So basically, they're just hanging out in a hotel room. Paige is drinking a beer. Omega has a gallon of milk and a bucket of ice, and then they notice the camera. Hangman Page goes up to it. He's looking at it, and then he goes and sits back down. Omega has a drinking problem, and by that, I mean not that he drinks too much alcohol. It's that he's a messy drinker. He just spilled milk everywhere in the Stadium Stampede. It's like he cannot keep it in his glass. Again, he went to pour himself milk here and he missed the glass on half of it and went on the floor. And then when he goes to drink it, it's like all dribbling down his shirt. So Omega has the act of drinking problem. So we'll see how this one goes. But it looks like Hangman Page and Omega have made up. So does that mean that the entire Elite is back as a cohesive unit? Is there that tension anymore in Omega and Hangman? Or is that tension, are they pulling it back together here to build that tension some more? I don't know if they're actually going to break this team up. I don't know if Hangman's going to do a turn or anything like that. Given how over Hangman was and how popular he is as a babyface with the crowd, I don't know if they are pulling it back together. It was one thing that I did say was a very good option. It definitely is not a bad option to pull the Elite back together once again, and Hangman gets pulled back into the fold, and they continue on as the Elite. That was an option that I gave months ago at this point for how the storyline could go. So we will see, but it looks like Omega and Hangman are back to being buddy-buddy. So again, we will see. Next up, we have a Cody promo, and on the outside, QT Marshall is flirting with Allie, and I have to say, damn, she looks hot in that red dress. I can't lie. So there was a clip on Dark that I saw that she was on the outside during QT Marshall's match. I believe it was a Natural Nightmares match, and she walks down to ringside, and she pulls out an apple, a green apple, while she's in the red dress. So a very nice contrast there, and takes a bite, and QT Marshall is a little flustered. So I'm curious, is Allie still the bunny and managing Butcher and Blade, or is that tiny little faction broken up, or is she playing mind games with QT Marshall? I am really not sure how this is going to go, because we haven't had a promo from her or anything, so we'll see what they are building. I'm hoping that she is still the bunny and with Butcher and Blade, and this is, for whatever reason, getting into QT's head for some endgame, I guess. So we will see. Anyways, Cody is with Tony in the ring. Cody says, "You know why Tom Brady is my favorite quarterback? He was not picked first." The parallel when Tony Khan thinks about a merit-based wrestling company, a bell-to-bell based wrestling company, naturally he's going to want to recruit the best wrestlers in the world. So I wasn't the first call. Wasn't the second call. I wasn't even the third call. He holds up 4 fingers. But it doesn't bother me. If there's even a tinge of bother, it is absolved by the fact that in my right hand is the TNT Championship. I am the first ever champion of America's greatest network. That's a hometown pop type of cheap pop, I guess. Because that's the thing. If you think my story is one of nepotism or favoritism, think again. My story is one of a 21-year-old kid that was called up to TV when I barely knew how to hit the ropes. Billy Gunn is in the audience. He says Billy knows all about that. I took my bumps, paid my dues, and I grew up right in front of you. I didn't get the dominate genes. Dustin got all of the dusty. I'm not the Simba in this tale, but respectfully, he continues talking, but they cut and show that QT is chatting up Allie. She's like flirting back with him. She seems to be trying to get in his head. That's what I'm thinking. And Brandy whacks him in the chest to pay attention to Cody in the ring. And Cody continues, I think I got something better. You see at home, I got this mean old mom. This little Cuban lady, Michelle. You know her, talking to Tony. And she's got a broken ankle. She's probably standing on it. My mother taught me everything I need to know about grit, about work. It isn't about talent. You can have all the talent in the world and you can shove it up your ass. If you stand next to me on the track, I will outrun you. I will outdog you. I will outlast you. I will outwork you. And he says, if someone is critical of me bell to bell, then I ask you to judge me by what I'm about to do next, because I'm about to turn a pace. I'm about to cut a schedule like no wrestler before. It's official at this moment. I will stand out here every week for the AEW TNT Championship. This is an open challenge. So Cody has put it out there. We have the TNT Championship is going to be defended every week on TV. It is an open challenge. I'm curious how this is going to go. I'm going to talk about it a little bit more at the end of the show. All right, because there's a lot to unpack, but I'm gonna hold on to that just for hold on. All right, next up we have Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc versus SCU's Frankie Kazarian and Scorpio Sky. This is the first time Frankie and Scorpio have tagged since I believe March or so. Kind of really strange that this match is happening. The winner of this match will be facing Omega and Paige for the tag titles next week. So the best friends won a number one contenders match on the pre-show of Double or Nothing, but they're not the first ones to get the title shot. They are actually getting it at Fyter Fest, whereas the winner of this match will be getting it next week. A little interesting that they're kind of jumping the line, and we will see. All right, another thing, I am sad that Jimmy Havoc did not come out to wrestle in his blood-splattered white suit. That was a much better look for him. He looked so much better at Double or Nothing, fighting in basically a dress shirt and tie and and pants, versus his pleather tank top thing that he wears. It's not intimidating at all. I don't know why he wears that. Anyways, again, why is this a tag team? JR says that Havoc is actually roommates with Ford and Sabian. Not sure why they'd want to have Jimmy Havoc around when they are an engaged couple, but whatever. Havoc and Sabian attack before the bell even starts. SCU gains control early in the match. And holy crap, they had a AEW Dark graphic in the corner with a read from commentary to say, check out AEW Dark on YouTube on Tuesdays. Wow. Call me super stunned, because this is like the first time in like 3 months that AEW Dark was mentioned on Dynamite. Havoc and Sabian turn it around at one point with a kick from Sabian to the outside when Frankie gets sent towards the ropes from a kick out, actually, I believe, from like a roll-up position. Havoc pokes Kaz in the eyes. Havoc really basically fights dirty this entire match. He uses fish hooks and biting and thumbs to the eyes. Sabian gets in on the action. He chokes Kazarian on the rope behind the ref's back. And I love the setup for a kick that they delivered to Kazarian. They set it up, and Jimmy Havoc put his finger on Kazarian's head like he was holding a football, like he was oh my god, I can't even remember what to call it. The guy who holds the football for the kicker. So he just like a football, he was holding it in place, and then Sabian gives him a penalty kick, and they both go up to the ropes in the direction of the kick and put their hands up to their eyes like they're looking out into the distance. And you can see Aubrey in the background waving it off as if it's left and that the field goal is no good. They're like, what are you talking about? She's like, nope, it was no good. The field goal was no good. So a little funny getting in on the act from Aubrey. She's always so expressive and really gets into, I know some people say she takes away from matches, but I think she adds. So that's the camp I'm in, at least. After a commercial break, Kazarian gets a tag to Sky, who turns it around, but it turns really into a back and forth for a while. Nobody really gains control for any substantial length of time. Kazarian moves out of the way when Sabian comes in to break up a pin attempt. He ends up giving a senton to his own guy. And then at the end of the match, SCU sets up for the SCU later, but Penelope Ford on the outside grabs Kazarian's leg, and he ends up getting kicked out of the ring. He's sent to the outside. Then Sabian and Havoc hit basically it's Sabian giving, so Havoc lifts Sky up into basically a vertical suplex position. Sabian basically gives him a drop kick to the back of the head, and then Havoc delivers a Michinoku driver. So it's a drop kick Michinoku driver combo. They don't have a name for that, and they pick up the win. So Jimmy Havoc and Kip Sabian are getting a title shot next week. They've had one match as a team, so this is the second one, and they get a tag title shot. Very strange booking this way. I'm not sure why they needed to have the tag titles defended next week. I don't expect them to get the tag titles unless something really explodes from Hangman Page and Omega. But I really doubt that. So I don't know why they even bothered doing this match. They could have just made this match as a setup, and whoever fights best friends, and that can be a number one contenders match. If they're trying to fill time, I mean, it really makes no sense for Sabian and Havoc to go after the tag titles, at least as this newly formed team that we still have no idea why they're a team, other than they're roommates, apparently. All right. Next up, we have MJF. He's talking about the Battle Royale that's coming up. He says that he's made it to the top of AEW without having to come from somewhere else. He's undefeated, but he still hasn't gotten a title shot for the AEW Championship. So when he heard that the winner of the Battle Royale will face the winner of the newly minted TNT title, MJF wanted to make sure he was there so there would be good competition for that TNT title. Wardlow is there. Wardlow will be here as my insurance policy, he says, and when it's just the two of us left, Wardlow knows what to do. Wardlow chimes in from behind, he says, but MJF immediately turns around and yells at him, but nothing! And then they stare at each other, and then MJF plays it off like he's pulling a joke on him and walks off. Wardlow, on the other hand, seems pretty mad about it. And then we go into the Battle Royale, and no! Dasha said TNT title opportunity. She used the word opportunity. I guess I can't fault her too much. She came up in the WWE system using all WWE terminology, and from what I gather, she wasn't a huge wrestling fan growing up, so the words or the phrase title shot probably not in her vocabulary, so I will give her a pass, but I hope they tell her to not use it anymore. That is just me. It was advertised as facing Cody next week, but she says future TNT title opportunity. Not sure what the miscommunication here was, if they didn't tell her or if they told her future as a... I don't know if they taped this. I don't know. I don't know the whole reason behind the terminology she used. Anyway, everybody is in the ring, and except Orange Cassidy. The bell rings actually as he's starting to make his entrance. And once he gets onto the stage, Orange Cassidy gets attacked by Santana and Ortiz with the Mad Balls, and he is taken out of the picture for the moment. MJF uses Wardlow as a human shield. Luchasaurus eliminates Luther, and afterwards Marco Stunt is trying to do a single leg takedown or a single leg throw over the top rope to Luchasaurus, and he's just like looking down at Marco being like, what the hell are you doing? Commentary didn't even mention it, but I saw it and I thought it was funny. So I will move this to the end. Hold on. All right, because we have a little controversy that happened during this match, and I want to address it afterwards. Colt Cabana gets past a Dark Order flyer after he got eliminated, so the kind of the spokes guy for the Dark Order that we've seen in video packages or all the really, really early packages, the video on the train the first guy saw, that guy. And Peter Avalon tries to eliminate Billy Gunn for no success. Brandon Cutler and Peter Avalon end up having a battle of the jobbers. If you have not been watching Being the Elite, the two of them have been going back and forth every week, calling the other on the phone and telling them that they're a loser. But they are both have a zero wins on their record, so this is going back and forth. They're always trying to one-up each other, trying to be the first one to get a win in AEW, and they fight. They end up eliminating each other, so they are still 0 and a lot. So we will see how this goes. I think they are actually going to set up a Brandon Cutler versus Peter Avalon match on Dark, and I think, just for good measure, that match should go to a no contest, because I think that would be very, very funny. Marco eliminates Christopher Daniels, actually. Wardlow then eliminates Marco Stunt. Wardlow and Luchasaurus have a fight. MJF comes in and chop blocks Luchasaurus. Billy Gunn takes out Wardlow and MJF for the meantime. They're still in the match, of course. Billy Gunn and Luchasaurus have a bit of a fight. They're actually like the same size. So, match that I never knew I wanted to see. Billy Gunn versus Luchasaurus. I think that would be pretty sweet. MJF and Wardlow dump Billy Gunn and Luchasaurus to the outside. So now we're down to Jungle Boy, MJF, and Wardlow. And then we realize, oh wait, there's one more. Orange Cassidy rolls into the ring under the bottom rope. Wardlow holds Orange Cassidy by the arms. MJF goes for a punch with the Dynamite Diamond ring, but he ends up clocking Wardlow because Orange Cassidy ducks. MJF runs after Orange Cassidy. Jungle Boy does a backdrop to MJF, sending him over the top rope. And then Orange Cassidy and Jungle Boy team up to eliminate Wardlow together. So it comes down to Jungle Boy and Orange Cassidy. Jungle Boy and Orange Cassidy have some really nice fast-paced action. Orange Cassidy hits 2 Superman punches in a row. Jungle Boy hits back with a really nice, really stiffly delivered clothesline. And then he pulls Orange Cassidy out of the ring with a head scissors, and Jungle Boy wins the match. So this is actually almost the same finish as... What Battle Royale was that? There was a Battle Royale a while ago, but I don't remember what it was for. But anyways, Jungle Boy actually did the same move to somebody, but then he got eliminated afterward. All right. So this match was fine. It was a Battle Royale, not a big deal. So we have Jungle Boy is going to be facing Cody for the TNT Championship next week. An interesting decision. Not that I have anything against Jungle Boy, but I don't see Jungle Boy beating Cody at this point, given Cody has way more momentum and has a much more solid record. So I guess we will see. Yeah, I really doubt that. It's probably not even go. Well, it actually might actually go a decent time, and Jungle Boy's probably going to get in a good amount of offense, but Cody's probably definitely going to pick up. Yes, Cody's going to pick up the win here. All right, so we have the slight. I'm gonna put it. Controversy. It was noted by a few podcasters that JR referred to Sunny Kiss as she twice, and everybody made that out as a big deal, but it is really not. One, I assume JR has talked to Sunny Kiss quite often. It's been a year. I'm pretty sure that they've had discussions, and Sunny Kiss has said whatever, and this is perfectly fine. Sunny Kiss doesn't care which pronoun you use. Sunny Kiss identifies as gender neutral anyways, so Sunny is fine. Prefers just being called Sunny, but using he or she is perfectly fine with Sunny. So it is not a big deal. Sunny just doesn't want to be called they. So JR didn't do anything wrong, and I assume that they've had discussions in the past, and of course, ring attire wise, Sunny definitely presents more feminine in general anyways. The shorts are, the trunks are a more feminine cut, wears a top like the women do, so whatever. I don't think it particularly matters. So JR is fine, especially in Sunny Kiss's book. So if you go look it up, Sunny Kiss doesn't care. Sunny Kiss is all good being called she. So I don't know why people made a big deal out of it. Obviously it was a men's title match, but you know, that is a different issue. But as far as controversy wise, JR did nothing wrong. Like I said, I assume that they've talked in the past, and that's the pronoun he's comfortable using for Sunny. Not a big deal. All right, it is announced that it will be Jungle Boy and Cody for the TNT Championship next week, so that took care of my comment earlier for Dasha saying a future TNT title opportunity. It's also going to be Havoc and Sabian versus Hangman Page and Kenny Omega for the tag titles. And then not announced on this show, but I added in, it was actually announced earlier today, is that Colt Cabana and Chris Jericho will be having a singles match next week as well. And then they did confirm Brian Cage at Jon Moxley at Fyter Fest, but Fyter Fest date is still to be determined. They were planning on doing it in the UK this year, but with everything going on, it doesn't look like they're going to be having a huge gathering at any point. So is it going to be kind of a virtual conference this year and everything's going to be streamed on the internet? That is kind of what I'm guessing. But since it's going to be taking place sometime this summer, this could be anywhere from late June to September at this point. I have no idea. Obviously, they have All Out Labor Day weekend, so I would assume it's going to take place before then. But if they have to hold Moxley Cage to All Out, I wouldn't be opposed to that. I wanted the Casino ladder match to have the title shot at All Out or at Full Gear, if they're going to still continue with that naming and have the November pay-per-view as Full Gear. So that's what I really like, have this annual thing that the Casino Ladder match gets the title shot at All Out or at Full Gear. So they have, a 6-month build or a 3-month build to the next pay-per-view already set in place. We know what the title match is, and then they can go from there. It's a device that New Japan has been using forever, with the winner of the G1, which takes place in August, getting the title shot the first week of January at Wrestle Kingdom. So, they have a 4-month span between when the match is set up. And what they could do, just like New Japan, is that Cage has to defend that number 1 contendership a couple times, maybe. So somebody could take it from him. And so if they need to change plans or anything like that, they could have that out, and he has to defend the oversized poker chip, I guess. And they could do it that way if they want. I think that would be a great way to do it, kind of get that annual cadence going, because I think having annual tournaments like New Japan does, you have the G1, they have the Best of the Super Juniors, they have the World Tag League, they have the Super Juniors Tag League. Every year they have these tournaments, so they kind of have the year scheduled out every single year, and then when their pay-per-views are, or their biggest shows. So they have the Wrestle Kingdom and Dominions and stuff like that, Power Struggle and the Destruction shows and stuff like that. They have their year kind of already laid out format-wise, and then they just need to plug people in. So you kind of have a nice, familiar cadence every year. With New Japan, you know what's going on. So if AEW did something like that, I'd be stoked if they did. I would really love to see an actual big tournament that they do every year, a big round and robin similar to the G1. I mean, right there, you can have like 3 months worth of bookings right there without even having to think. So I think that would be cool to bring that kind of stuff in, and you could actually utilize Dark more for those, and actually make Dark important, because you have all that free time. You can do whatever you want on YouTube. You can have as long or as little of a show on YouTube, or you can have it staggered. So you could have those tournament matches and put them up on YouTube throughout the week, and you have content throughout the week if you want. All right, anyways, we have the Inner Circle prep rally, and we have a bunch of cheerleaders on the stage, and Vicky Guerrero is out there, and she introduces the Inner Circle in her super screechy voice. That is pretty much the usual for Vicky. So I have to say, at least Vicky is in good with AEW, because WWE is pissed at her. When she did the short appearance on AEW Dark, doing some commentary with Excalibur way back at the beginning of the show. I don't know, was that October or November? Something like that. WWE has refused to allow WWE contracted talent to be on her podcast anymore since then. She used to have them all the time. Now she can't get anybody. So at least she's in good with AEW, and they're like, hey, we'll use Vicky for stuff. They used her in the Bubbly Bunch thing. They're using her here. She was in the crowd at Double or Nothing. So if she can get a little paycheck here and there from AEW because WWE cut her off, that's fine with me. That's the least the wrestling business can do for her. Jericho grabs the mic, says that's been a rough time for the Inner Circle. They end up throwing a bunch of the misprinted shirts into the crowd. A lot of them get thrown back because they're like, what's this? This sucks. Sammy is like, calm down. We didn't win the Stadium Stampede match, Chris, but you know what we did do? We participated. So I got you all trophies. So he hands out these trophies. Jericho says, I appreciate this, Sammy, but mine says King of Dad Jokes. And Sammy's like, well, with the pandemic going on, it's kind of hard to get trophies custom made. And Santana, he grabs the mic. He got a New Yorkin, so a New York Puerto Rican gift basket. He gives chopped cheese to Ortiz, gives Vapo Rub to Sammy, to help with his injuries, gives a pair of Timberwolves to Jake But as soon as he mentions that they're the discounted ones, the smile off of Jake's face leaves very quickly because he knows these are not real Timberwolves. So I thought that was pretty funny. Jericho says, man, I can smell the Vicks from a mile away. That better work for you, Sammy. And then the best for last, a framed photo of Mark Anthony for Jericho. It's not even signed. So he just got a framed photo of Mark Anthony for Jericho, and it's not even signed. It's Jericho's turn next. Jericho says Sammy is too cool to have those geeky crutches, so he got him a little scooter, and it has a little sign that says "The Hit Me Up Mobile" or "Hit Me Up Mobile." I don't know which way you're going to pronounce that one particularly, but it's one of those little scooters that if somebody has a broken leg, they can prop their leg and kind of scoot along with their other one. So that was pretty funny. And then he says, and for you, Ortiz, ever since you got your bell rung, Ortiz is like, huh? He said, ever since you got your bell rung, he's like, huh? Because he can't hear. That's the joke. He gives him some headphones, and he puts them on, and he's like, now the bell will stop ringing. He's like, oh, this is so much better. And then it's Jake's turn. Jake says, my grandpa told me the best gift ever is a handwritten poem. So he reads this poem, which I did write down word for word. So here we go. Happiness by Jake Hager. Oh, inner circle, you are the faction of my dreams. The perfect mix of sex and violence, the best of both extremes. You build me up when I'm feeling down like only close friends can. And if you ever cross me, or if anyone ever cross you, I will choke them with my bare hands. Santana, Ortiz, Sammy, Le Champion, you are the best, la. I can't wait to run over each elite member with my Tesla. I love the way you steal the show every Wednesday night. The biggest leader, the leader of the biggest bitches on Dynamite, which I don't think he meant it in I think he meant it in we're badass bitches, not we're, yeah, anyways. Those pumpkin-headed dipshits may have won the stampede, but the inner circle never loses because I have a particular set of skills, and I will find them. And I will find them like an unstoppable rebel force. I know where they live. I've seen where they sleep. And I swear all you fans will cry when you see what I've done to them. And it's just like tails off. So he leaves the poem and then he goes off into this psycho. And Jericho's like, whoa, big man. Okay. And then Hager says, the end. And Jericho says, good stuff. They're all trying to, they're calm him down a little bit. And Jake just says, I'm happy. Sammy says, Chris, what do you want? What do you truly want? And Jericho says, well, Sammy, what I really want is Mike Tyson's head on a platter. The crowd boos at him. Jericho says, shut your ass. You heard me, because I haven't forgot what Tyson did to me on January 11th, 2010 on a Monday night. He turned on me. He turned traitor on me. And every single day of my life, every day since then, I've dreamed on getting my hands on Mike Tyson's fat head. And I want his head on a platter. I want his head on a platter, Sammy. And Sammy says, well, I couldn't get his head on a platter, but I did get something a little bit better. I got you a cheese platter and a little bit of the bubbly. And then they show the platter is like all eaten, and the bottles of the bubbly are all empty. And then Mike Tyson and his posse come out, and they have one of them's drinking out of a bottle. We have Vitor Belfort. We have Henry. I don't even know, Kahuta. They're both MMA guys. There's also Rashad Evans was there as well, which I did not recognize because he grew his hair out. Former UFC light heavyweight champion, I believe. I believe he actually held the heavyweight as well. Jericho says, hold on a second. You got your thugs out here. I'm going to say this one time, Tyson. Shut your mouth while I'm talking to you. I've been dreaming of this moment for 10 years. You turned on me, you looked me in the eye and said I could trust you. And then you turned on me and you knocked me out. Tyson grabs the mic for a second and says, because you a sucker and you deserve it because you were wrong. You stole the championship. I have no idea what the hell he's talking about. It's Mike Tyson. I don't think he knows what he's talking about. Jericho says, shut up. I'm going to give you one chance and one chance only. I'm going to demand that you apologize to me for knocking me out. Your thugs need to shut up. I'm going to give you one chance or I'm going to knock you the hell out. And then Tyson rips his shirt. Well, he tries to rip his shirt. And then he tries, when he can't rip it all the way, he tries to take it off over his head. Tries. And then he tries to continue ripping it, and then he just kind of gives up, and he starts flexing in Jericho's face. And Jericho says, apologize to me or I'm going to knock your teeth down your damn throat. And Tyson pushes Jericho, and a brawl ensues. This was Tyson, Austin in 1998, all over again, like 22 years ago. They have a massive pull-apart brawl. The entire locker room comes out to pull them apart. And then Jericho is yelling, I'll get you, you son of a bitch. Jericho starts yelling, Tyson, Tyson, Tyson. And then he has a little altercation with Colt Cabana here, which is probably why the match was announced for next week. They're like, hey, that little thing happened, so why don't we capitalize on it? If it was, I'm guessing it wasn't actually planned for next week, but they took it out. And that was the end of the show. And I need some water. Hold on. All right, so let's talk about a couple things, and then I will get to the TNT Open Challenge. So just want to touch on the ratings real quick. Ratings came out earlier today, and AEW and NXT are way up from last week. Both of them gained about 130,000 viewers. Actually, NXT gained almost 140, so really good. AEW 827,000 and NXT 731,000. So both of them up massive amounts. So that is a good sign, and it is the biggest total number between the two of them since before the pandemic started. So that is good to see. So hopefully things are going to be turning around. There was a few things that could have contributed to this. Not as many people watching the news shows. The news shows weren't as highly rated as they have been, as the world slowly kind of either one starts opening up and getting back to a little bit of normalcy, or maybe people have been a little more resigned to what is now normal, or have changed their expectations of what is now normal. So there is that. There was NASCAR that was supposed to go head to head, but that I believe got postponed or rained out or something. So that was not in play like it was last week. There was no UFC like 2 weeks prior. So their competition for who would normally be watching the show, who would watch something else, was a lot less this week. So hopefully they can maintain these numbers, but we will see. A weird thing that I noticed, no Nyla Rose. You figure after losing the AEW the championship, there would be at least a promo from Nyla, but there was not. So I'm curious, given how short the title run was, is something going on with Nyla, and that is why they took the championship? I'm not sure. Maybe an injury, maybe something nagging that needs surgery or needs to get fixed or just needs time to heal, and Nyla couldn't continue making the dates. I'm not sure. So we'll see, but yeah, no Nyla, so very interesting. We'll see if it continues on to next week. We also have brand new rankings out. We have MJF sitting at number 1. We have Lance Archer and Brody Lee tied at 2. They have the same record, 5-1. So they're 2 and 3. Omega is still sitting at number 4, and Darby Allin has moved into the number 5 spot with a record of 6 and 4. So we will see where that goes. MJF is obviously in line for a title shot at some point, given that he is the number 1 ranked at the moment. So whether he's going to go face Cody for the TNT championship or Moxley at some point soon, I don't think he's going to. I don't know what's going to happen, because I don't know if they're going to want to take his undefeated streak. So are they going to continue to string him along, I guess is the best way to put it, and prevent him from getting a title shot? Because I think somebody taking his undefeated streak is going to be big, and I don't know how you keep him having an undefeated streak without him getting the title, unless you have to do something to string him along to keep him from getting a title shot. A lot of people thought, well, maybe Jungle Boy will end his undefeated streak at Double or Nothing, but it would be so much more impactful if he did that in the future, because you only get an undefeated streak once. You're only undefeated once. So how are they going to break his undefeated streak, which they have built up? So I don't know how we'll go here. A lot of things came out of this. A lot of questions as far as, is AEW becoming too comedic? Are they straying too far outside of what mainstream or casual viewers would find entertaining? That was brought up on a lot of analysts' mind over the past 24 hours, because you had a lot of comedy on this show. Obviously, the Stadium Stampede match back at Double or Nothing was pure comedy for 45 minutes, just about. So on this episode alone, they had 3 Inner Circle segments that were comedic. The Britt Baker promo was comedic. We had the Bucks and Hardy with the wardrobe change. We had Orange Cassidy. He was in one of the Inner Circle segments that I talked about, but then, of course, he was in a match as well, which he plays up some comedy. And then, yeah, so, like, you had such a huge amount of comedy. Would mainstream viewers or casual viewers find this entertaining, or they find it stupid? A lot of people, it's been really polarizing with the Stadium Stampede match. I thought the Stadium Stampede match was great, but of course I guess you would call me a more hardcore viewer than the casual viewer, and a lot of people who have never watched wrestling before, who've seen the Stadium Stampede, are like, you watch this crap? And then the people who have watched wrestling in the past say, this is stupid. So I don't know if all this stuff is too inside joke at this point, and it's not going to grow the audience. That is a slight concern that, with me personally, I love this stuff because it's directed. I'm the audience it's directed at, but I do have a little bit of concern that it's not going to help grow the audience beyond what it currently is. And that would just be a bummer if that happened and AEW can't grow their audience more. Obviously, that's a concern. And then finally, my thoughts on some things that they can do with the TNT Championship and the Open Challenge. I think one of the biggest things they can do is use this for a vehicle for surprise debuts or surprise appearances. I mean, think about this, that you just had a crap ton of people be let go from WWE. You have a ton of indie people who are not working right now. Could you pull some of these guys in for one-offs? Do you have a Marty Scurll just come in for a one match against Cody, or whoever the champion is at the time in 3 months? Who the heck knows? Do you have a person? I think you want Rusev as a permanent guy, so I don't think he should be a one-off, but you could debut him that way. So in whatever the time frame is. It's probably going to be what they released a month ago, so June, July. So sometime in August, maybe Rusev can show up in a debut answering the open challenge to the TNT Championship. You can also have Matt Cardona, who is formerly known as Zack Ryder, or Brian Myers, who is Kurt Hawkins. They're buddies of Cody. It's almost guaranteed that Matt Cardona, aka Zack Ryder, is going to be in AEW at some point. Is that a way to debut them? Have them answer an open challenge? You could bring in guys easily for their debut as a surprise for the TNT Championship. So I'm looking forward to how they can play with that, and I'm hoping they do that and they have some more debuts, because they've been really doing these shows like they didn't want to change their plans because of what's going on in the world. They're not like making shows to waste time. They're continuing to move the story forward, even though there aren't fans in the audience. And it's just because you have fans at home. So if you just churn time filler, then what's the point? So they're writing shows as if there is a crowd there, and they're moving storylines forward like they normally would be, which is great for those of us who are watching on TV, because it makes the TV product better instead of just repetitive garbage that is just a time filler. And I mean, 2 hours every Wednesday, we don't need time filler. We want a show that's compelling and continues moving the ball forward. So I'm looking forward to that, them continuing this trend, and it looks like they have solid threads working throughout, and we see that forwarded every week, and it's been good so far. Really, they had the Georgia tapings, that 4 or 5 weeks of TV that they had to tape in like 2 days. But other than that, it looks like they are back on track, running down the field in the direction that they were planning to, for the most part, with a few tweaks here and there, as people's availability slight changes and all that fun stuff. So looking forward to see how it goes. So not too bad going back to a solo show this week. Hopefully we'll be back to normal. All my co-hosts are feeling a little under the weather today, so hopefully we will get them back next week. But thanks for tuning in, everybody. Be sure to head over to iTunes and give us a 5-star review. Hopefully it will really help in the search. And be sure to, if you're listening to this as a podcast, head over to the YouTube channel and subscribe to the YouTube channel. This show is done live, so you can join us in the chat and talk to other people who are watching it live as well. Also, there is a Discord channel. The link is in the description, and either on the YouTube or in the show notes of the podcast. So head over there. We have all types of different channels, but we have a wrestling channel over there. It's basically all my projects that I work on. Also, if you're interested in being a New Japan co-host, shoot me an email, eric@thatswrestling.com. If you'd like to be a fill-in co-host for AEW in cases like today where the regular co-host can't make it, shoot me an email, eric@thatswrestling.com, or you can connect to me over on Discord. I'm pretty much connected there all the time to the channel that is linked in the description, and that is how we connect to the co-host as well. We do it through Discord because the voice clarity is a lot better and it's free, so that's a big plus. So mailbag, comments, questions, feedback, all that good stuff, eric@thatswrestling.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, can't find it in your podcast app, there's also an RSS feed at thatswrestling.com. So I think that is all the crazy plugs. So I will, starting Monday, also over on the YouTube channel. I should have announced this at the beginning. I'm going to start doing some news segments, just short, 5 to 10 minute clips, once a day, once every other day, as news comes, basically, so you can get your news updates there. I'm also going to have the audio of those segments on a separate podcast feed, so be on the lookout for that. It will be called That's Wrestling, I don't know yet. That's Wrestling Daily, That's Wrestling News. I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet, but it will come out. So stay tuned to the YouTube channel for that. So thanks a lot for watching and listening, everybody. I'll see you next week on That's Wrestling. See you later, guys.